supported radio station. We're all listener supported. So I think what I would like to do is read something that, how you can make bookmarks and check history. Well, I guess on my computer, I had a bookmark, and I was looking through all my bookmarks, and I'm like, well, what's that bookmark? And it's called the see if I can pronounce it correctly, the Ananga Ranga, Chapter 7, Different Signs of Men and Women. So this is obviously a text from Vedic sources, and I got it from the website at www.sacred-text.com. So we're talking a little bit about, this is really good for in the age of Kali Yuga to know, because this is the different signs in men and women. And I'm just going to read it. If it gets too boring, please don't hesitate to join me. If you've got Skype, please call. And I'll look for my little blinking Skype thing because I can't hear my Skype calls ring for some reason, but I'll pay attention. Okay. The characteristics of a woman we should take as a wife are as follows. She should come from a family of equal rank with that of her husband, a house which is known to be valiant and chaste, wise and learned, prudent and patient, correct and becomingly behaved, and famed for acting according to its religion and for its discharging its social duties. She should be free from vices and endowed with good qualities, possess a fair face and fine person, have brothers and kinfolk, and be able to, and be a great proficient in the Kama Shastra, or the science of love. Anything that is a Shastra means the science of, so Kama is obviously love, and the Kama Shastra is the science of love. Such a girl is truly fitted for marriage, and let a sensible man hasten to take her by performing the ceremonies which are commanded in the holy law. Again, this is chapter 7 from the Ananga Ranga. And here may be learned that somebody's calling me. Okay, never mind. And here may be learned that the marks whereby beauty and good shape of body are distinguished. The maiden whose face is soft and pleasing as the moon, whose eyes are bright and liquid as the fawns, and that's not the fawns from Happy Days, the fawns like the deer, whose nose is delicate and sesamum flowers, whose teeth are clean as diamonds and clear as pearls, whose ears are small and rounded, whose neck is like a seashell, with 3 lines delicate or tracings behind, whose lower lip is red as the ripe fruit of the bryony, whose hair is black as the Brahmara's wing, whose skin is brilliant as the flower of the dark lotus, or light as the surface of polished gold, whose feet and hands are red, being marked with circular chakra or discus, whose stomach is small, with your umbilical region drawn in, whose shape below the hips is large, whose thighs, being well proportioned and pleasing as a plantain tree, make her walk like an elephant, neither too fast nor too slow, whose voice is sweet as the kolika birds. Such a girl, especially if her temper be good, her nature kindly, her sleep short, and her mind and body not inclined to laziness, should at once be married by a wise man. So, don't sleep too much, I guess. But the girl who comes from a bad family, whose body is either short or very tall, very fat or very thin, whose skin is ever rough and hard, and whose hair and eyes are yellow and ladder like a cat's. Meaning, I guess, when they get older, or at night, maybe late at night, they turn into the cat's eyes. I don't know. Whose teeth are long, or are wholly wanting, whose mouth and lips are wide and projecting with lower lips of dark color, and tremulous when speaking, who allows her tongue to loll out, whose eyebrows are straight, whose temples are depressed, who shows signs of having a mustache or a beard, okay, and dense body pile, whose neck is thick, who has some limbs shorter than or longer than the other usual proportions, whose one breast is larger and the other one is low or small, whose ears are triangular, like a sifting fan, whose second toe is longer and longer than the bigger toe, whose third toe is blunt, without a tip or a point, and whose little toes do not touch the ground, whose voice is harsh and her laugh is loud, who walks quickly and with uncertain gait, who is full grown, who is disposed to be sick, and who bears the name of a mountain, of a tree, of a river, of a bird, or a constellation. Such a girl, especially if her disposition be irascible, and her temperament violent, and if she eats and sleeps a lot, if she's always vexed and troubled and stressed out, if her disposition be restless and fidgety, if she has little understanding in the worldly matters, if she be destitute of shame and in her natural disposition be wicked, she should carefully be avoided under all circumstances. So much for the characteristics of the woman. On the other hand, the man should be tried even as gold is tested in 4 ways: by the touchstone, by the cutting, by heating, and by hammering. Thus should we take into consideration learning, disposition, qualities, and action. The first characteristic of a man is courage, with endurance, and if attempt any deed, great or small, he should do it with the spirit of a lion. Roar. Second is prudence. Time and place must be determined, and opportunity devised, like a back heron that stands intently eyeing its prey in the pool below. The third is early rising and causing others to do the same. The fourth is hardihood in war. The fifth is a generous distribution and division of food and property amongst family and friends. The sixth is duty, attending to the wants of the wife. The seventh is circumspection in love matters. The eighth is secrecy and privacy in the venereal act. The ninth is patience and perseverance in all the business of life. The 10th is judgment in collecting and in storing up what they might need or what might be necessary. That one sounds like Nighthawk. The 11th is to not allow wealth and worldly success to engender pride and vanity, magnificence and ostentation. The 12th is never aspiring to the unattainable. The 13th is contentment with what the man has, if he can get no more. The 14th is plainness of diet. The 15th is to avoid oversleep. The 16th is to be diligent in the service of employers. The 17th is not to fly when attacked by robbers and villains. The 18th is working willingly, for instance, not taking into consideration the sun and shade and the labor be obliged to carry a parcel. The 19th is the patient endurance of trouble. The 20th is to keep the eye fixed on great business, and the 21st is to study the means properest for success. Now, any person who combines these 21 qualities deservedly reputed an excellent man. Okay, when choosing a son-in-law, the following characteristics should be aimed at. He must come from a large family, which has never known sin and poverty. He must be young, handsome, wealthy, brave, influential, diligent in business, moderate, enjoying riches, sweet of speech, well-versed in discharging his own dues, known to the world as mine of virtues, steadfast in mind and the treasury of mercy, who gives alms and makes charities as far as his means permit. Such a man, described by celebrated poets as a fit man to have the daughter it should be given in marriage. And these are all defects and blemishes of a son-in-law. A man who is born in a low family, who is vicious, a libertine, pitiless, and ever sickly with dangerous disease, sinful and very wicked, poor and miserly, impotent, prone to conceal the virtues and to divulge the vices of others, a constant traveler, an absentee, or one ever far away from his home and residing abroad as a debtor, a beggar, a man who has no friendship for the good, or who, if we have it, breaks into quarrel upon trifling things such as a person the wise will not accept as a son-in-law. We now proceed the Sumudrika Lakshana, or the chiromanic signs, good and bad, which affect present and future happiness. The length of a man's and a woman's life, and the marks which denote it, must first be treated of, because it is useless to see auspicious details of death may be shortly expected. At first, the palmistry of the man. Every perfect hand and foot consists of 5 members, namely, Agushna is the thumb, the Charjani is the forefinger, the Madhyama is the middle finger, the Anamika is the ring finger, and the Kanishtika is the little finger. Now, if an unbroken line in the palm runs from the mount or the base of your little finger to that of your forefinger, it is a sign that your hand will live 100 years. But the man in whose palm his unbroken line runs from the ball or the cushion of the little finger to that of the middle finger should be considered as likely to live for a period of 60 years. Moreover, the man upon whose thumb or chest there is a figure shaped like a barley grain, the same will eat bread earned by his own exertions, and he will remain always happy. As a rule, if the lines in the palms are few, men are poor and penniless, and if there be 4, they are happy. And if there are more than 4, then they're threatened with mean and wretched fortunes. Moreover, much streaked palm shows a quarrelsome nature. The man whose eye is red, whose body is fair and of good complexion like gold, whose trunk is fleshy, and whose arms reach his knees, the same will always remain rich and enjoy grandeur, opulence, lordship, and supremacy. A man whose thighs are large will win great wealth. The man whose waist is broad will be blessed in his wife and many children. The man whose feet are long and whose hands are very delicate will always enjoy happiness. And the man whose head is large and lengthy, he will rise to be a prince. The man whose linga is very long, he will be wretchedly poor. And the man whose linga is very thick will be always in distress. The man whose linga is thin and lean will be very lucky, and the man whose linga is short will be a Raja. So much concerning the characteristics of men. And now, as regards the other sex. The woman of inauspicious signs will be or become an orphan, a widow, destitute of brothers and sisters, and without connections, as well as relations, so that her life ends as it began in bitterness. Her characteristics, therefore, should be carefully examined before marriage with her is contracted. I'm going to take a break. I'd just like to make a couple comments about a couple of our hosts here on Revolution Radio. I was looking at my Facebook timeline, and one of my Hare Krishna friends had taken a picture with Terry Joyce and put it on the feed, the news feed, and I looked up and I didn't see her name anywhere, but I knew who it was, and there's Terry, and she's holding a Hare Krishna book, and I thought that was the cutest picture, and I was very happy to see those two worlds colliding. I asked him, the guy, if he wanted to come on and talk about stuff maybe with me sometime, and he said yeah. So the other person was Pat Patrick English. He had the best show today, and I thought that I was tuning into a different radio station. I thought I was listening to one of my Hare Krishna Swami lectures, and I thought did seem kind of strange, and it sounded different because usually it's in Russian, but it was, and I listened to it for about an hour, just enjoying it, and then I realized that that was Patrick. I know that person. I know exactly who that is, and I was just so happy that I could have heard it. So next time you see either one of them, just go ahead and give them a high five. Hare Krishna. So let's go back to this qualities thing that I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Ananga Ranga, Chapter 7. And these are just the differences in men and women. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull off this whole hour, but I'm trying just to test myself. The woman who bears on the sole of her left foot a line extending from the mount or cushion of the little toe to the ball of the big toe, that woman will be ready to obtain a good husband and will find great happiness in his love. The woman whose little toes do not touch the ground when she walks will certainly lose her husband, and during her widowhood she will not be able to keep herself chaste. The woman whose tarjani, or second toe, is the longest of all the toes will be unchaste even before marriage. What doubt then is there of her being an adulteress as long as her youth endures? The woman whose breasts are fleshy, firm, and handsome, whose bosom is without hair, and whose thighs are like the trunk of an elephant, will enjoy a life of happiness. Okay. The maiden who has black moles on her left breast, throat, and ears will marry and bear a son having auspicious marks, and by her means all the family will be blessed. The maiden whose neck is very long will be of a wicked and cruel disposition. Let me see if someone's calling me or what. Hold on a second. Nope. Okay. The maiden who bears in the palm of her hands lines resembling the unclosing walls and the Toran garlands of flowers and twigs of trees bent into circles will become the wife of a king, although she's been born in a servant's house. The maiden whose neck is short will be wretchedly poor, and if the maiden's neck has 3 lines or wrinkles, she'll be a good disposition and she'll be fortunate. Ha. The maiden whose palms have lines in the shape of an ankush or spiked hook for guiding elephants, a kuntala or spur, and a chakra, which is a disc. It will intermarry with a royal house and bear a son who shows the most fortunate signs. It is written in the book Narrated that marriage should never be contracted with a girl unless the lines and spots, as interpreted by the treatise of chiromancy, are first examined and found good. The consequence of unauspicious signs is that her birth will cause the death of her father, mother, and brother in succession. The man who marries such a maiden will presently die and be followed by all of his brothers, and these 2 families will be destroyed. You got to be careful, I guess, that palm reading. There are 7 kinds of troubles which results from having intercourse with the wife of another man. Okay, 7. First, adultery shortens or lessens your life. Secondly, the body becomes spiritless and vigorless. Thirdly, the world derides and reproaches the lover. Fourthly, he despises himself. Fifthly, his wealth greatly decreases. Sixthly, he suffers much in this world. And seventhly, he will suffer more in the world to come. Yet despite all the ignominy, disgrace, and contumely, it is absolutely necessary to have connection with the wife of another under certain circumstances which will be presently specified. Great and powerful monarchs have ruined themselves in the realms by their desire to enjoy the wives of others. For instance, in the former days of the family of the Ravana, the king of Lanka, which is Ceylon, It was destroyed because he forcibly abducted Sita, the wife of Rama, and then this action gave rise to the Ramayana poem, which is known to the whole world. Vali lost his wife for attempting to have connection with Tara, and this is fully described in the Kishkinda Kand, the chapter of the history Kichaka, and the Kaurava, together with his brother, met with destruction because he wished to have Drupad, daughter of Drupad, in the common wife of the Pandu brothers, as described in the section of the Mahabharata. Such are the destructions which in days past have happened to those who coveted other men's wives. Let none, therefore, attempt adultery even in their thoughts. And there are 10 changes in the natural state of man, which require to be taken into consideration. Firstly, when he is in a state of dhyasa, which is desiderium, or at a loss to do anything except for to see a particular woman. Secondly, when he finds a mind wandering as if he were about to lose his senses. Now, these are the changes in the natural state of men, which require to be taken into consideration. And the first is the loss of motivation to do anything except for to see a certain woman. Second, when he finds his mind wandering as if he were about to lose his senses. Thirdly, when he is ever losing himself in thought how to woo and win the woman in question. Fourthly, when he passes restless nights without refreshment of sleep. Fifthly, when his looks become haggard and his body emaciated. Sixthly, when he feels himself growing shameless and departing from all sense of decency and decorum. Seventhly, when his riches take to themselves wings and fly. Eighthly, when the state of mental intoxication verges upon madness. Ninthly, when fainting fits come on. And 10thly, when he finds himself at the door of death. That these states are produced by sexual passion. They may be illustrated by an instance borrowed from the history of bygone days. Once upon a time there was a king called Purava, who was a devout man, and he entered upon such a course of mortification and austerities that Indra, the lord of the lower heaven, began to fear lest for himself he might be dethroned. The god, therefore, in order interrupted these penances and other religious acts, sent down from Svarga, his own heaven, Urvashi, the most lovely of the Asparas, which is the nymphs. The king no longer saw that he fell in love with her, thinking day and night of nothing but possessing her, till at last, succeeding in his project, both spent a long time in the pleasure of carnal connection. Presently, Indra, happening to remember the Aspara, dispatching his messenger of all the Gandharvas to the world of the mortals, and recalled her. Immediately after her departure, the mind of Purava began to wander, and he could no longer concentrate on his thoughts upon worship, and felt upon the point of death. See, then, the state of mind which the king was to reduce by thinking so much about Urvashi, that when a man has allowed himself to be carried away and captive of desire, he must consult a physician and the books of medicine which treat upon the subject. And if he comes to the conclusion that while he enjoys his neighbor's wife, he will surely die, he should, for the sake of preserving his life, possess her once and once only. If, however, there be no such peremptory cause, he is by no means justified in enjoying the wife of another person, merely for the sake of pleasure and wanton gratification. Moreover, the book of Vyasyana, the Rishi, teaches us as follows. Suppose that a woman, having reached the lusty vigor of her age, happened to become so inflamed with love for a man, and so heated by passion, that she feels herself failing in the 10 states before described, and likely to end in death, attended with frenzy, if the beloved refuse her sexual commerce. Under these circumstances, the man, after allowing himself to be importuned for a time, should reflect that this refusal will cost her life. He should therefore enjoy her on one occasion, but not always. I think I know who that one's for. In the next paragraph. The following women, however, are absolutely and under all circumstances to be excluded from any commerce of the kind. the wife of a Brahmin, of a Shrotriya, of a Agnihotri, and of a Puranic. To look significantly at such a woman or to think of her with a view of sexual desire is highly improper. And let me tell you what the meaning of is in English. A Brahmin learned in the Vedas, a priest who keeps up the sacred fire, the reader of the Puranas, and those three. They can't have any association with women or any sensual desire. It's highly improper that then must we think the sin of carnal copulation with her, like in the manner men prepare to go to hell by lying with their wife of a king, of any man of the warrior caste, now extinct, or of a friend, of a relation. The author of this book strongly commands its readers to avoid all such deadly sins. Indeed, there are certain other women who are never to be enjoyed, however much men may be tempted. First, a virgin, without marrying her. Second, a widow. Third, a woman living chastely or virtuously with her husband. Fourth, the wife of our friend. Fifth, the wife of our enemy. Sixth, any of the reverend women specified above. And seventh, the wife of a pupil or a disciple. Eighth, a woman born in one's own family. Ninth, a woman who has been defiled. 10th, a mad woman. 11th, a woman older than oneself. 12th, the wife of a guru. 13th, one's mother-in-law. 14th, one's maternal aunt. 15th, the wife of one's maternal uncle. 16th, one's paternal aunt. 17th, one's paternal uncle's wife. That's a no-no, guys. Your, where was I? Paternal aunt. 17th, one's paternal uncle's wife. 18th, a sister. 19th, a pregnant woman. 20th, a woman with whom one is not acquainted. Oh, strangers. No sex with strangers. 21st, a woman who has committed mortal sins and crimes. That would be a felon. 22nd, a woman whose complexion is entirely yellow or jaundiced. 23rd, a woman whose complexion is black. It is laid down in the Shastras that the wise should never, under any circumstances, have connection with those 23 kinds of women, as well as with others bearing any relationship to one. Well, that cancels a lot of people out, I guess, but it's all for the best. The following is a list of women who serve but as go-betweeners. First, a gardener's wife. A woman who is a personal friend, and these are women who serves but only as go-betweeners. A personal friend, a widow, a nurse, a dancing girl, a woman engaged in manual or mechanical arts, a woman hired as a servant or a maid to the woman of the family, an attendant as distinguished from a slave, a woman who goes from house to house speaking sweet words, a woman with whom he can talk freely about love and enjoyment, and a woman under 16, and a female ascetic or mendicant of the name of religion. So I guess that would be like a nun of sorts. Those are go-betweeners. A woman who sells milk and buttermilk, a tailor, a woman fit to be called a mistress grandmother, who the amorous should prefer those kinds of people, as when deputed upon such messages, they do their work kind and well. The following is a list of women who can most easily be subdued. First, a woman whose deportment shows signs of immodesty. A widow. A woman who is highly accomplished in singing and playing musical instruments, and in similar pleasant arts. A woman who is fond of conversation can be easily subdued. A woman steeped in poverty, such the wife of an imbecile or an impotent person, can be subdued. The wife of a fat and ton-bellied man can be subdued. The wife of a cruel and wicked man, the wife of one who is shorter than herself, can be subdued. The wife of an old man, the wife of a very ugly man, a woman accustomed to stand in the doorway and to stare at passers-by, can be easily subdued. Women of variable disposition, the barren women, especially if she and her husband desire the blessing of issues. The woman who brags and boasts can be subdued. The woman who has long been separated from her husband and deprived of her natural refreshments. The woman who has never learned the real delight of carnal copulation can be subdued. And the woman whose mind remains girlish can be subdued. And now to describe the signs and symptoms by which we are to know when women are enamored of us, guys. So this is how you can tell women are crazy about you. First, when a woman loves a man, she's not ashamed of looking at him, and of boldly and without fear or deference, keeping her eyes fixed on his. When she moves her foot to and fro, when she's standing up, and she draws as if it were lines upon the ground, with her foot, that's how you could tell a girl likes you. When she scratches divers limbs without sufficient reason, I don't know what that means. When she leers or looks obliquely and casts sideways glances. When she laughs causelessly at the sight of a man, that's how you know she's crazy about you. Furthermore, if the woman who, instead of answering, has a straightforward question, if the woman, instead of answering a straightforward question, replies by joking or making funny words, who slowly and deliberately follows us wherever we go, who under some pretext or another dwells upon our faces or forms with a wistful and yearning glance, who delights in walking before us and displaying her legs or her butt, or behaves to us with a mean and servile submission, ever praising and flattering, one who contracts friendships with our friends and who is asking them, in the house of such and such person, are there any wives? Or does he love them? And are they very beautiful? Who, looking towards us, singing at sweet air, who passes her hands frequently over her breasts and her arms, who cracks her fingers, who yawns and sighs when not expected to, or who will never appear before us, though we call and summon her, unless in her most becoming dress, who throws flowers and similar articles upon us, or who, protesting various things, often goes into and comes forth from the house, and finally, whose face, hands, and feet break into perspiration when she casually sees us. That woman, showing any such signs and symptoms, is enamored of us and is strongly excited by passion. All we have to do, if versed in the art of love, is to send an able go-between. Okay, I'm going to have to learn about go-betweens. On the other hand, if the following women are hard to be subdued. So these women are hard to catch. The wife who is full of love for her husband, or the woman whose cold desire and contempt for Congress keeps her chaste. Oh, that sounds like somebody running for president. Third, the woman who is envious of another's prosperity and success. The mother of many children are hard to be subdued. A dutiful daughter or daughter-in-law. A courteous and respectful woman, or a woman who fears and stands in the awe of her parents and those of her husband, is not easily subdued. A wealthy woman who ever respects, often wrongly, that we love her money better than her, she's hard to be subdued. Or a woman who is shy, bashful, and retiring in the presence of strangers. Or an avaricious and covetous woman is hard to be subdued. A woman who has no adversary or covetousness, such women are not easily secured, nor it is worth our while to waste our hours pursuing them. The following are places where a woman should not be enjoyed. First, the place where fire is lighted with the religious formula Agni Mukha and other mantras. Second, in the presence of a Brahmin or other reverend man. Third, under the eyes of an aged person to whom respect as a guru or a father. You don't enjoy a woman when a great man is looking on, or by the side of a river, any murmuring stream. You don't enjoy a woman as a meadow on the ground where men are buried or burned. The consequence of carnal connections, such as places, are always disastrous. They breed misfortune. And if children are begotten, these turn out bad and malicious people. The following are the times when women are not to be enjoyed. First, by day, unless their class and temperament require coitus during the light hours. During or at Sankranti Parvani, that is to say when the sun or a planet passes from one side of the zodiac to another. During Sharad, or the cold season, which is October and November, women are not to be enjoyed. During Grishma, or hot season, June till July, women are not to be enjoyed. In the Amavasya, the new moon day of the Hindu month, unless the love shastra specifically specify the contrary. During the periods when the man suffers from a fever, he should not be enjoying women. Or during the time of Vyata or any self-imposed religious observance. In the evening time, you shouldn't enjoy women, or when wearied with warfare. The consequences of Congress at such epochs are disastrous, as if the act took place in a prohibited spot. The following is a situation which the wise men of old have described as being best fitted for sexual intercourse with women. Choose the largest and finest and the most airy room in the house, and purify it thoroughly with whitewash, and decorate its spacious and beautiful walls with pictures and other objects which the eye may dwell with delight. Scattered about this apartment, place musical instruments, especially the pipe and the lute, with refreshments as coconut, betel leaf, and milk, which is also useful for retaining and restoring vigor. Bottles of rosewater and various essences, fans, and choris for cooling the air, and books containing amorous songs, and gladdening the glance with illustrations of love postures. Splendid Devalgiri, or wall lights, should gleam around the wall, reflected by 100 mirrors, which both man and woman should contend against any reserve or false shame, giving themselves up in complete nakedness to unrestrained voluptuousness upon a high and handsome bedstead, raised on a tall legs, finished with many pillows and covered by rich chatra. In such a place let a man ascending the throne of love enjoy the woman in ease and comfort, gratifying his and her every wish for every whim. And these are the footnotes from the Ananga Ranga. And that was a mouthful for me. This is an interesting footnote here. The swastika is a crushed cross, known as the Scandinavians as the hammer of Thor. And so it's painted on doors in India as an auspicious mark or seal. And it's affixed to documents in lieu of signatures by Hindu wives who can't write their name. Interesting. So this was pretty good information, especially for the Kali Yuga. This need not be necessarily taken in a bad sense as procurus, but in Hindu as well as in Muslim families, women are sufficiently secluded to require the assistance of feminine Mercuries in matters of marriage. A maternal aunt is called a mommy. Isn't that funny? I have another small piece of information that's highly a top secret. You're not supposed to tell. I'm not supposed to tell this information, but I'm going to tell who's ever listening, whatever 5 people that might be. There's something called the Nagamani, and I'm sure Olive might know about the Nagamani. If he wants to call me Olive. The Nagamani is if you take a cobra and you cut behind its head, when it's alive or whatever, you cut behind its head and squeeze behind his eyeballs. There's these like little pearls. I think there's 2. I'm not sure. There might be only 1 per snake, but I think there might be 2 in each snake. And you squeeze its head after you cut it, and these little pearls pop out. And if you have one of these pearls, you're going to be rich and famous. You can have anything you want. It's like lucky beans. And in fact, that might be what the lucky beans were in Jack and the Beanstalk. When you put a Nagamati, and it's a Nagamati, when you put it in water and you shake it up, and then the water turns into milk. Probably poisonous milk, too. But if you put it in water, usually it jumps from the top to the bottom really slowly, and it has some bubbles so you can see it's like alive or something. It's really weird. So I woke up last week and I saw something floating around in my bed, and I didn't know what it was. It looked like a sucked up cough drop or something. It was rose colored. And the next day I picked it up and I looked at it as I was learning about a Nagamani, and lo and behold, there was it was under my pillow. I woke up and it was under my pillow, and it was the appearance date of Srimati Radharani, which is the Queen of Heaven. So I have one of these little magic beans, and I'm wondering how it got there, because it's the real Nagamani. And I feel really grateful and blessed to have it, although it sources from black magic, and so kind of should probably scare me a little more than it should make me happy, but it doesn't at this point. I've saved it in a little box. We're coming up towards the end of the hour. I actually made it through. I'm not satisfied with my performance, but I tried. So thank you, anybody who's listening. Please donate. God knows we need it. It looks like we've raised about $1,900 out of the $2,600 that we need. So we still need some hundreds. We still need your continued support. Anybody that's listening, just, go to the freedomslips.com website and click on donate. If you've got $5, that's great. If you got $50, we'll send you something. There's all kinds of options if you want to get something in return for your donation. Freedomslips.com. This is Heather Holman. I don't have a show currently. I've hung up my microphone headset just for the time being, till like the planetary alignment is more stable. I don't know what I'm looking for in life, but I'm needing to find something, and it's not feasible for me to have a commitment to a time slot at this time. Watch your kids around water. I think I've given a lot of basic instruction over the last 50 minutes as far as what you should and shouldn't do. Some of it I think is ridiculous. It sounds like if you followed these rules, nobody would be getting any. The whole world would be alone. So that's the age that we live in. It's the time of quarrel in the Kali Yuga. I hope that I'll be having a guest to interview within the very near future. I want to bring some of my Krishna people to the surface, because they're really a source of information, and it's all Vedic information. It's all bona fide information. It's not speculation. It's the science of self-realization and God-realization. Self-realization is more of Yogananda, Paramahansa Yogananda. He was the self-realization founder. But the Krishna consciousness founder which is Srila Prabhupada, he was all about God realization, and Krishna is God. So that's basically it. I don't want to just leave you with more dead air. So maybe I can find some crazy song or something. I don't know. Good. Thank you for listening. Have a good night. Up next, I think we have Pony.
Radio at freedomslips.com.